have you ever felt like the world is just accelerating? Like technology, especially AI, isn't just evolving, but fundamentally reshaping everything around us at a dizzying pace. Your job, your children's education, your community, even the global economy, it feels like it's all in motion.
It really does.
Welcome to Tomorrow Unveiled. This is where we try to dissect the most important news around these societal, economic, cultural changes driven by tech.
Yeah, cutting through the noise.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Our mission today is to get you future-proofed, to help you understand this massive transformation. Our dedicated research team, they've compiled just a ton of sources from the past week alone.
It's been busy.
Hasn't it? And we're here to pull out the most critical insights, really focusing on what's corroborated, what we're seeing across the board.
Right. This isn't just abstract tech talk.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
This is about offering you a shortcut to being genuinely well-informed, giving you maybe some surprising facts, but definitely practical perspectives you can actually use.
And it's fascinating how quickly AI integration has shifted, from theory to these really deep, practical, systemic changes. Just the last 7 days felt like a real inflection point in the research.
That sets us up perfectly for our first big area, the accelerating transformation of work. And like you said, it's not a simple story of AI just replacing people. It's way more nuanced.
It really is. Our research consistently points to this kind of dual narrative playing out. So on one hand, AI acts as a capacity multiplier.
Capacity multiplier. Like what?
Well, imagine, say, a small local credit union. Suddenly, they can offer every single client a mortgage product that's so perfectly tailored, it's like a whole team of financial advisors spent weeks on it.
Wow.
But it happens in real time. That's the power, right? Scaling these bespoke services that were basically impossible for most businesses before.
Right.
And this new capacity, it actually creates demand for totally new roles. Things like AI interaction designers or personalization strategists.
I heard of those.
Exactly. And multiple reputable institutions are suggesting that while, maybe 85 million jobs might be displaced, as many as 97 million new ones could actually be created.
97 million. That's definitely optimistic. But what really jumped out at me from the research is the sharp contrast with the immediate reality on the ground.
The layoffs.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Companies like Microsoft, Google, Salesforce, they've explicitly linked recent layoffs to adopting AI. We even saw one CEO from a leading AI firm warning that, get this, up to half of all entry-level white-collar jobs could vanish.
Half? Wow.
Within just 1 to 5 years. I mean, think about it. AI can quickly take over tasks like interpreting contracts, analyzing data. The economic logic for businesses, short-term at least, is pretty compelling.
And this brings us right to a really fundamental shift in how companies hire. We're calling it the skills-based hiring revolution. We're seeing this significant move away from traditional credentials, the standard bachelor's degree sometimes, towards verifiable skills. The data showing a notable drop, like 7% to 10% in jobs needing zero prior experience.
Right, those classic entry points.
Yeah, and at the same time, entry-level roles, specifically demanding AI skills, they've surged by 30%.
30%. And you said this isn't just like a Silicon Valley thing.
Oh, absolutely not. It's global. Our research team found that an overwhelming 99% of surveyed employers in North America are actively exploring skills-based hiring.
Wow.
And in Europe, it's maybe even more acute. Corporate demand for AI projects just exploded 230% in 1 year, but the supply of freelancers with AI expertise only grew 31%.
That's not a gap, that's a chasm.
It absolutely is. It's a skills vacuum. And the new in-demand skills, they're this really interesting blend. You need technical fluency, sure, Python, R, data analysis, machine learning, that kind of thing.
A hard skill.
Right. But combined with what we're calling human skills, creativity, critical thinking, complex problem solving, empathy, collaboration.
The stuff AI can't easily do.
Precisely.
Yeah.
The ideal candidate emerging now is really this hybrid professional.
Which leads us to a really crucial societal point, I think.
Yeah.
The entry-level paradox. So if AI is killing off traditional entry-level jobs, data entry, basic admin, stuff like that, but the new entry-level jobs need these advanced blended skills, what happens? It feels like it removes the first rung on the career ladder for a lot of people.
It does, and it raises a huge question. What does this mean for, say, recent graduates? or people without specialized certificates or applied experience, it creates a kind of structural disadvantage right from the start.
Yeah.
And our research shows this paradox is directly fueling these renewed and frankly urgent discussions around universal basic income, UBI.
UBI is back in the conversation.
Big time. It's moving, as one source put it, from a kind of utopian ideal towards being seen as a pragmatic potential solution for handling widespread economic dislocation.
Okay, so from work, let's pivot. Let's talk about the systemic overhaul of education, because the research this past week really highlighted how schools are scrambling to respond.
Oh, profoundly. The pedagogical shift is massive. Education seems to be largely moving away from just banning AI, which was the first reaction, right?
Yeah, don't use ChatGPT.
Exactly. Towards integrating it as a core learning tool. There's this concept of post-plagiarism.
Post-plagiarism.
Yeah, it's basically recognizing that hybrid human AI writing is, well, it's rapidly becoming the new normal, so the focus shifts. It's now about teaching students how to critically evaluate AI output, how to refine it, fact-check it.
So using AI as a starting point, not an end point.
Precisely. The goal is cultivating those uniquely human skills, asking critical questions, grappling with ambiguity, stuff machines just can't replicate.
And this shift, this pedagogical pivot, it's obviously being fueled by this explosion of AI-powered educational tools. Our research team found tools for basically every stage of learning.
It's incredible.
For research and analysis, you've got platforms doing sophisticated data analysis, summarizing academic papers, tools like Elicit for finding research, PowerDrill for deep literature reviews.
Yeah. Saves incredible amounts of time.
Right. And for writing and content creation, tools like PaperPal to refine academic language, Grammarly, obviously, for style, even tools like Gamma for whipping up visual presentations quickly.
Then there are the big comprehensive learning platforms integrating AI assistants like Comigo for teachers inside Canvas.
Oh, and this one blew my mind. Next-gen interfaces. Like a new feature in Gemini Live lets you just point your phone camera at a textbook, and the AI instantly explains the content or generates study guides on the fly.
Wow. That's a game changer for studies.
Isn't it? And all this adoption is driving a formalization of AI literacy in policy and curriculum.
Yeah, we're seeing concrete initiatives pop up. Statewide AI education programs for middle and high school, new university minors like AI and business.
And it's not just about the tech skills, right?
No, not at all. The push is really to teach students to spot bias in AI outputs, to question them, to resist what some call the illusion of objectivity these systems can project.
So, thinking bigger picture, what does this mean for the actual purpose of education? Our research suggests education might be undergoing this kind of bifurcation.
Bifurcation?
Yeah, between competency delivery on one hand and judgment cultivation on the other. AI, it seems, excels at competency delivery, teaching codifiable skills like math rules or grammar or even basic coding.
Right, the stuff you can test easily.
Exactly.
And that, in turn, elevates judgment cultivation as the most critical human function in education, fostering critical thinking, ethical reasoning, creativity, the ability to ask genuinely novel questions.
So the teacher's role changes completely.
Absolutely. Less sage on the stage, more guide on the side, maybe even an orchestrator of these complex learning experiences using AI tools.
Okay, let's broaden the lens again. Let's talk about the abundance economy's double-edged sword. Because AI isn't just changing jobs in schools, it's poised to be this massive engine for global economic growth.
It really is. Our research team crunched the numbers from various sources, and the consensus suggests widespread AI adoption could boost global GDP by an additional 15 percentage points by 2035.
15 points. That's huge.
It's comparable to the impact of the Industrial Revolution, driven by automation, sure, but also human augmentation and entirely new business models.
But there's always a but, right? This potential for abundance, it blows open the great inequality debate. And the research we looked at had some pretty conflicting evidence on how AI will actually impact inequality.
Yeah, it's tricky. On one side, AI can be skill augmenting. It amplifies the output of high-skilled people. Like one study showed top scientists had an 81% higher research output using AI.
81%.
While their lower-skilled peers saw basically little change. So that could definitely widen the gap between, say, labor and capital or high-skill and low-skill workers.
Okay, but here's where it gets counterintuitive.
Right.
AI can also be skill substituting, right? Acting as a leveling force.
Exactly. Another study, this one on call center workers, showed AI tools led to a massive 34% productivity jump for the novices, the least experienced workers.
34% for novices.
Yeah. But it had minimal impact on the experienced high-performing ones. Why? Because the AI could substitute for the prediction tasks, figuring out the likely solution, which is what the experienced workers were already good at. It reduced the performance gap.
So it helps the bottom more than the top in that case.
In that specific context, yes. And this really complex picture is a key reason why we're seeing the reemergence of universal basic income, UBI.
Back to UBI again?
Well, the prospect of AI-driven mass automation is pushing it back into the mainstream discourse, not just as a safety net, but maybe a necessary one. Even some figures considered the godfathers of AI are acknowledging UBI as a potential solution.
And it's not just talk anymore.
No. What's really fascinating now is the conversation has moved to concrete economic modeling. Our research team found studies actually providing mathematical conditions under which a UBI, funded perhaps by rents or taxes on capital gains from AI, could be financially sustainable, even in worst-case scenarios with zero new job creation.
Wow. Okay. So that leads us to this kind of unifying idea you mentioned earlier, the judgment premium as the new organizing principle.
Yes. It helps resolve that paradox about inequality. Think of it this way. AI excels at prediction. It makes prediction cheap, abundant, almost a commodity. That tends to reduce skill gaps, like in the call center example.
Okay.
But AI also amplifies the value of judgment, deciding what to do with the prediction, understanding context, ethics, strategy. That's judgment. And since AI enhances it for those who have it, the value of judgment goes up.
So judgment becomes the scarce, valuable resource in an AI-driven economy.
Exactly. Wealth, opportunity, they'll increasingly flow to those who can cultivate and deploy that faculty, which explains partly why high-income regions might see their dominance reinforced and why education is shifting so hard towards critical thinking and, well, judgment cultivation.
Okay, this is making sense. To make it even more concrete, let's look at some global implementation case studies that our research team highlighted.
Good idea. A prime example is the financial services sector. It's really a vanguard for AI adoption, and you see that dual impact crystal clear.
How so?
On one hand, aggressive automation, AI for trading algorithms, fraud detection, credit scoring. Our research flagged projections of maybe 200,000 roles in Wall Street firms potentially being replaced in just the next 3 to 5 years.
200,000, wow.
But simultaneously, AI is enabling totally new hyper-personalized services, like those instant bespoke mortgages we talked about, tailored to really complex client needs.
Right, so it mirrors that judgment premium idea. Routine, prediction-heavy jobs get automated, while the high judgment roles, the ones dealing with complex customer needs, ethical gray areas, strategic directions, those are actually expanding.
Precisely. Another really compelling case study is the UK's national AI strategy in education. They're being notably proactive.
What are they doing?
They've updated their national policy on generative AI in K-12 education. It sets clear expectations for educators, but also for the tech providers selling tools into schools.
Ah, so accountability.
Yes. Things like requiring rigorous due diligence before adopting AI tools, even seeking warranties from edtech vendors about performance and bias. Plus, big investments in human capital teacher training, certification programs, even creating an AI content store with pedagogically sound training data.
That sounds quite comprehensive.
It is. Then, shifting to the corporate side, look at ServiceNow's AI adoption journey. It offers a fascinating deep dive into a company trying to be an AI enabler for other businesses.
Right, they sell workflow automation.
Exactly. And their CEO is talking about a $22 trillion market opportunity by 2030. They're investing heavily in what they call agentic AI.
Agentic AI, what's that?
Think AI systems that don't just predict or suggest, but can autonomously act, make decisions, execute tasks, manage entire workflows to achieve complex goals, like an AI project manager.
Okay, that sounds powerful. And potentially scary.
Well, maybe. But the research also reveals a big challenge. Most organizations are actually struggling to scale AI beyond just small pilot projects.
Really? Why?
It fuels this intense war for talent. Companies desperately need people in roles like AI solution manager who can actually implement and manage these complex systems effectively. It highlights a huge preparedness gap at the company level. They have the tech maybe, but not the people or processes to use it well.
Got it. Okay, quick pause here. If you're finding this insightful on YouTube, please do take a moment to like this video, subscribe to Tomorrow Unveiled, and definitely hit that notification bell so you don't miss future updates.
Yeah, it really helps.
And if you're listening on a podcast service like Apple Podcasts or Spotify, we'd be incredibly grateful if you could leave us a rating and review for Tomorrow Unveiled. It genuinely helps us reach new listeners. Okay.
Thanks.
All right, let's move into policy and ethics, governing technology that, frankly, ignores borders. Our research team identified basically three distinct global philosophies emerging for AI regulation.
Yeah, it's like a triad. First, you have the EU AI Act. Very European, right? It's risk-based, rights-focused. Strict rules for high-risk AI systems, think employment, education, law enforcement, and outright bans on things like social scoring or real-time public biometric ID. Big fines for non-compliance.
Okay, the strict approach. What else?
Then you've got Japan's AI Promotion Act, almost the opposite. It's innovation-centric, principles-based, it's non-binding, voluntary guidelines. The whole focus is accelerating innovation, not restricting it upfront.
Lighter touch. And the third?
California's Frontier AI Policy. Kind of a middle ground. It's trust but verify. Targeted specifically at the most powerful frontier AI models. It mandates transparency, things like revealing training data, doing safety testing, reporting adverse events, but enforces it through existing authorities.
So EU is strict rules, Japan is guidelines, California is verify the powerful stuff. That sounds messy for global company.
Oh, absolutely. This fragmentation means businesses operating internationally need really sophisticated region-specific strategies. It's a complex web.
And while nations figure this out, are there efforts above the national level?
Definitely. There's a strong supranational push for ethical guardrails. Organizations like UNESCO are promoting a global ethical AI recommendation, developing tools to help countries implement it. The OECD is also key, pushing transparency frameworks like the G7 Hiroshima AI Process Reporting Framework for voluntary risk disclosure.
Trying to find some common ground.
Exactly. But despite all this policy action, a really critical finding from our research team is this persistent corporate governance gap.
Governance gap, meaning
Meaning, while tons of employees are using AI, like 58% in one study use it at work, only 40% said their workplace actually has a clear policy on how to use generative AI safely and ethically.
so people are just using it. However,
Very much. It leads to widespread shadow AI usage. Nearly half of employees, 48%, admitted using AI in ways that actually contradict company policies, even if informal ones exist, like uploading sensitive company data to public AI tools.
oof, that sounds like a huge liability. IP infringement, data breaches.
Massive liabilities. It's where risk meets reality, and it's made worse by AI washing vendors kind of overhyping their AI capabilities, which just erodes trust further.
And this creates this interesting feedback loop you mentioned.
Yeah, this co-evolutionary relationship between governance and regulation. When companies drag their feet on internal governance, it often fuels public and regulatory pressure for stricter external rules.
Which then forces companies to act.
Right, so being proactive with internal governance isn't just good practice, it's actually becoming a significant competitive advantage.
But
Get ahead of the curve.
okay, but it's not all straightforward. Let's talk about the challenges and considerations, because this isn't all smooth sailing.
Not at all. A major hurdle is the practical challenge of algorithmic fairness. It's way harder than it sounds.
How so? Isn't it just about removing sensitive stuff like race or gender from the training data?
If only. The problem is proxy variables. Other seemingly innocent data points, like zip codes, maybe even names sometimes, can strongly correlate with those protected characteristics. So the AI learns the same biases anyway, just indirectly.
Okay.
Plus, there's something called fairness drift. A model might seem fair when you launch it, but over time, as the input data shifts or the model gets updated, biases can creep back in or new ones emerge. It needs constant monitoring.
Which sounds difficult and potentially legally tricky.
Extremely. Because testing for bias often requires processing sensitive data to see if the outputs are skewed, but doing that can itself violate privacy laws like GDPR in Europe. It's a real catch-22 for companies.
A legal minefield. What other big challenges?
The sheer scale and speed of the reskilling imperative, we saw numbers suggesting over half, 54% of all employees will need significant reskilling by 2025. That's staggering.
54% by next year? Is that even feasible?
That's the huge question. Some research suggests we risk training vast numbers of people for potentially only a few highly specialized roles, creating a bottleneck.
And are we training the right things?
Another good point. Many national strategies seem focused on university-level AI specialists, potentially neglecting more vulnerable populations who need basic digital literacy first. Or they overlook the soft skills, creativity, collaboration, judgment, which might actually be the most resilient to automation in the long run.
Right. And finally, there's the issue of trust.
Yeah, the persistent trust deficit. It's strange. Usage is high, like 66% of people use AI regularly in some form, but trust, less than half, only 46%, actually trust AI systems.
Why a gap?
A lot of it stems from the black box problem, not understanding how the AI reaches its conclusions. And that AI washing we talk about doesn't help either. Exaggerated claims erode trust.
And there were some more unsettling reports in the research, too.
Well, yes, our team did find reports coming out of safety testing labs where advanced AI models apparently resisted shutdown commands during certain tests. Now, these are controlled environments, very specific scenarios.
Like still.
But still, headlines like that definitely fuel public anxiety about AI control, about alignment. And without trust, you just won't get the full beneficial adoption of AI, no matter how powerful it becomes.
Okay. So pulling this all together, what does Tomorrow Unveiled predict for the near future? Let's look at the projected trajectories, say, for the next 5 years, based on all this corroborated evidence.
Right. Based on the research, we see a few key trajectories accelerating. First, that bifurcation of the labor market. The entry-level paradox gets worse, making it much harder for those without specialized skills or credentials to get started. Meanwhile, the judgment premium creates really extreme wage growth for top talent who can leverage AI effectively.
A widening gap.
Seems likely. Second, education becomes an absolute prerequisite for participation in the economy. AI literacy won't be optional. We'll likely see elite institutions double down on judgment cultivation, which could widen the gap between them and institutions or individuals unable to keep pace.
Education becomes more critical, but also potentially more stratified.
Potentially. And third, we anticipate persistent regulatory fragmentation. Those different global models, EU, Japan, US, aren't likely to converge quickly. This forces multinational corporations into complex strategic hedging to comply everywhere.
Okay, so given those trajectories, what are the takeaways? The strategic recommendations for stakeholders. Let's start with policymakers.
For policymakers, three things stood out. One, invest in judgment infrastructure. That means reorienting education funding K-12 and higher ed towards critical thinking, creativity, ethics, not just STEM. Two, build agile and experimental social safety nets. Seriously, pilot things like UBI, portable benefit systems that follow workers, not jobs. Be ready to adapt.
And third?
Regulate for transparency. Mandate meaningful disclosures from AI developers about training data, capabilities, limitations, and known biases.
Okay. What about for educational institutions?
Radical changes needed. One, execute a radical curriculum redesign, embed AI literacy and ethics across all disciplines, not just computer science. Rethink assessment away from things AI can easily do. Two, forge deep and dynamic industry partnerships. Get real-world problems, real-time data into the curriculum. Internships become crucial.
And the core mission.
Champion human connection as the core value proposition. Emphasize discussion, mentorship, collaboration, the things that happen best between people, facilitated by tech, not replaced by it.
Makes sense. And finally, for business leaders and investors.
Close that governance gap immediately. Implement clear, enforceable AI policies. Don't wait for regulators. Two, invest in human capital as a strategic asset. Commit to continuous reskilling programs. View your workforce's adaptability as key to your success.
And for investors specifically.
Bet on the judgment premium. Fund the tools, platforms, and companies that augment high-quality human judgment, not just the ones building the biggest, most general-purpose AI models. Find the niches where human expertise combined with AI creates unique value.
Right. Focus on augmentation, not just automation. So today, on Tomorrow Unveiled, we've really tried to unpack these profound shifts driven by AI and work and education in the global economy. From that worrying entry-level paradox to the potentially valuable judgment premium and navigating this complex landscape of global AI governance.
It's a lot to track.
It is. But the path to a truly future-proofed society seems to rely on proactive adaptation, on making intentional choices, not just reacting. And here's a final thought to leave you with. As AI makes prediction cheap and abundant, the real scarcity, the ultimate value, might lie not in knowing all the answers, but in knowing which questions to ask.
Yeah.
How will you cultivate your judgment in this rapidly evolving world?
Good question.
We love hearing your thoughts on this stuff. Whether you're watching on YouTube or listening on your favorite podcast app, please leave a comment. Let us know what you think about the future of work and education in the age of AI.
We read them all.
That we do. We'll be back next week on Tomorrow Unveiled to keep exploring the landscape of tomorrow. Thanks for joining us.